You've been told the lie that circumstances decide your future. That if the economy softens, your life must too. That if your boss is blind, your destiny goes dark. But here's the shock to the system. Life does not pay what you need, it pays what you deserve. Not what you hope for, but what you habitually do. If your days are built on neglect, junk food for the body, gossip for the mind, excuses for the calendar, then regret is already drafting the invoice. The good news, deserve is earned. Shift the philosophy, and the results must follow. Trade drift for direction, appetite for discipline, spectatorship for study. Tonight, you stop outsourcing your future. Because when you change, everything connected to you must renegotiate. The question is, will you, or will comfort keep the keys a little longer? Stay with me. I met a man once who had given 40 years of his life to a company that didn't remember his name. He told me his story with that tired kind of pride, the pride of survival. He said, Jim, I've worked hard. I've done everything they asked, but I just can't seem to get ahead. The boss doesn't notice, the breaks never come my way, and the economy keeps pushing me back. I looked at him, and what I saw wasn't bad luck, it was blindness. Because for 40 years, he had blamed the weather, the boss, the system, everything except the one person who could change his situation, himself. Here's the truth, and I don't say this to insult anyone, but to wake you up, most people spend more time planning their weekend than they spend planning their future. They'll map out their vacation with meticulous detail. Which hotel to stay at, what to pack, where to eat. But when it comes to the most important trip of all the journey of their own life, they just hope it works out. And hope, my friend, is not a strategy. The reason so many people drift through life is simple. No design, no direction, no discipline. They let time make the decisions they're too afraid to make. They call it fate, but it's really neglect wearing a disguise. You see, neglect is silent. It doesn't crash through the door. It sneaks in quietly, day after day, decision after decision. And before you know it, neglect has turned into regret. Here's the paradox that changed my life. Life doesn't respond to need, it responds to deserve. I know that sounds harsh, but it's also liberating. Because if life responded to need, every desperate person would be rich, every kind heart would be fulfilled, and every honest worker would be free. But the marketplace doesn't operate on emotion. It operates on value. If you want more, you must become more. Here's what that means. Your current results, your income, your relationships, your level of joy are not accidents. They are reflections. They mirror your philosophy, your habits, your decisions. Life is like a mirror. If you don't like what you see, don't blame the reflection. Change the person standing in front of it. And I can almost hear some of you thinking, but Jim, I'm trying. I'm doing my best. I believe you. But doing your best is not the same as doing what works. A man can try his best to grow roses by watering weeds, but his sincerity doesn't change the outcome. Effort without direction is exhaustion. And direction only comes when you decide to take responsibility for your life fully, completely, no excuses. Let me tell you something most people never realize until it's too late. You are always paying a price, always. The only question is whether you're paying the price of discipline or the price of regret. Discipline weighs ounces small, momentary discomforts that build your character and sharpen your mind. Regret, on the other hand, weighs tons. It crushes you with the weight of what could have been, what should have been, and what never will be because you waited too long. When I was 25, I was broke, frustrated, and full of reasons why it wasn't my fault. I remember sitting in my car one day. It wasn't much of a car, but it was all I had, and realizing something profound. I was spending more money maintaining that car than I was investing in my own mind. Oil changes, tires, gas, polish, everything to keep it running. But when it came to feeding my thoughts, my philosophy, my personal growth, I was starving. No books, no study, no mentors, no development, just hoping the world would reward me for effort alone. That realization hit me like lightning. I was treating a machine better than I was treating my mind. Your mind is the garden of your destiny. Every seed, every thought, every belief, every word you repeat to yourself takes root there. You can choose to plant discipline, knowledge, gratitude, and vision, or you can let weeds grow excuses, doubt, procrastination, fear. But understand this, nature does not tolerate emptiness. If you don't plant deliberately, weeds will take over automatically. And those weeds, resentment, comparison, comfort, will choke every good seed you ever tried to grow. Now, some people say, Jim, I'm just waiting for my chance. But chances don't come to those who wait. They come to those who prepare. You can't complain about missing opportunities when you're not ready to receive them. Life will test your capacity before it expands it. And if you fail the small tests, keeping your word, showing up on time, finishing what you start, why should life trust you with bigger rewards? Here's the secret that separates the winners from the wanderers. They invest in themselves, not once, not when it's convenient, not when they have time. They make self-investment a lifestyle, not a phase. When I first heard that, I thought it was cliche until I tried it. I started reading, I started listening, I started learning, not from everyone, but from the right ones, from those who had done what I wanted to do, lived the life I wanted to live. And slowly, everything began to shift, not because the world changed, but because I did. And that's the greatest miracle of all. When you change, everything changes. Let's make this practical. Take a look at your daily routine, your true daily routine, not the one you tell people about. What time you wake up, what you eat, what you listen to, who you talk to, how you spend your free hours. That's your future right there in motion. Because small disciplines compound, so do small neglects. If you read for 30 minutes a day, in 5 years you'll be an expert. If you scroll for 30 minutes a day, in 5 years you'll be distracted. Either way, the time will pass. Success is not a mystery, it's math. And the math says this: consistent effort in the right direction multiplies, consistent neglect subtracts. So, if you're serious about changing your life, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the economy. Don't wait for your boss to notice. Don't wait for someone to save you. Nobody is coming to fix it for you because you are the one meant to fix it. Start with one promise, that from this moment on, you'll work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because when you improve, everything attached to you improves. You become the seed, and success becomes inevitable. Let's dig deeper into that idea, working harder on yourself than you do on your job, because if you truly understand it, it will change the course of your entire life. Most people think income comes from effort, but effort alone is not the currency of success. Value is. You're not paid for the hours you give, you're paid for the value you bring. That means if you want to earn more, you must become more valuable. You've got to turn your time into gold by improving the person who spends it. I remember a young man coming to me after one of my seminars, his face full of exhaustion and frustration. He said, Jim, I'm working 12 hours a day, I'm doing everything right, but I'm still stuck. How can I make more money? I smiled and told him the same thing that changed my own life. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. He looked puzzled. He said, I thought I was supposed to give my best to my company. And I said, you are. But your company doesn't control your growth, you do. Work harder on yourself, and you'll never have to beg for opportunity again. See, your job can make you a living, but your self-development can make you a fortune. And I don't mean just a financial fortune. I mean a fortune of confidence, of peace, of wisdom, of choices. Because when you grow, you multiply what's possible for you. You open doors that others can't even see. Let me repeat something crucial. You can't earn more than you learn. Your income will almost never exceed your level of personal growth. Why? Because the marketplace rewards competence, creativity, and courage. And those don't come from luck, they come from discipline, study, and practice. The more you learn, the more you can do. The more you can do, the more valuable you become. And the more valuable you become, the more you attract opportunity, wealth, influence, freedom. Formal education might open the door to a job, but self-education opens the door to a life. Schools teach you how to make a living. Self-study teaches you how to make a difference. And difference makers always rise. I'm not against formal education, far from it. But the tragedy is that too many people stop learning the day they graduate. They close the book, get the diploma, and never open another one. They keep growing older, but not wiser. The world moves forward, but they stay where they are outdated, overwhelmed, and out of alignment. Meanwhile, the people who keep learning, who feed their mind every day, they grow faster, adapt quicker, and thrive longer. The question is, when was the last time you studied you? Your habits, your philosophy, your emotional responses, your relationship with money, your attitude toward growth. When was the last time you audited the thoughts you allow to live rent-free in your mind? Because your mind is real estate, and the tenants inside determine your destiny. Your income, your relationships, your level of peace, they all spring from the invisible architecture of your mind. If your thoughts are small, your results will be small. If your thoughts are limited, your life will be limited. And if your thoughts are powerful, disciplined, and rooted in truth, your future will mirror that power back to you. Let me share a story from when I was young and broke but hungry. I once heard about a seminar that cost $1,000. That was nearly everything I had at the time. My friends thought I was crazy for even considering it. You can't afford that, they said. You've got bills, rent, groceries. But I knew something they didn't. I couldn't afford not to go. Because that one seminar wasn't just information, it was transformation. It was an investment in the most important asset I would ever own, me. I went. I sat in the front row. I took notes like my future depended on it, because it did. And that single decision to invest almost everything I had into my mind became the turning point of my life. That's when I learned something priceless. Knowledge costs money, but ignorance costs fortunes. So let's talk about where to start. The first place you must invest in is your mind. Feed it deliberately. Don't let the world decide your mental diet. You wouldn't let strangers fill your refrigerator with junk, so why let social media fill your mind with noise? Read books that make you think, not just books that entertain. Learn from people who've walked the path you want to walk, not from critics who never built anything. Fill your mind with wisdom, strategy, and timeless truths, because whatever you put in must come out. Next, invest in your skills. Your skills are the tools you use to turn ideas into income, potential into performance. Whatever you do for a living, commit to mastery. Don't settle for average. Average is the fastest way to disappear. Be so good that people can't ignore you. Learn to communicate, to persuade, to lead, to manage time and money. These are the skills that compound across every area of life. Every new skill increases your worth in the marketplace. You don't get paid by the hour, you get paid for the value you pack into that hour. And the third area, the one most people ignore, is your emotional capacity. Because success is not just about what you know, it's about what you can handle. Can you handle pressure? Can you handle failure without losing faith? Can you handle rejection without losing enthusiasm? Can you handle success without losing humility? If not, you'll keep breaking under pressure and calling it bad luck. I call it your emotional bank account. Every time you overcome frustration, instead of quitting, you make a deposit. Every time you stay calm under chaos, you make a deposit. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you make a deposit. Build that emotional wealth, and no storm can bankrupt you. Remember, success doesn't just demand talent, it demands toughness. People quit not because they lack skill, but because they lack strength. Life will test you. It will push you. But if you've built your emotional muscle through self-discipline, you'll bend without breaking. And let's not forget your health. What good is building an empire if your body can't carry you to the top? You can't enjoy wealth if you've destroyed the vessel that creates it. So take care of it. Eat like you respect yourself. Move your body. Rest deeply. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be intentional. Because your body is the engine. Without it, the journey ends early. Here's the principle that ties all this together. When you grow, everything attached to you grows. Your income grows, your influence grows, your relationships grow, and your sense of peace grows. Because you can't upgrade your life without first upgrading the person who's living it. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That's the golden rule of transformation. And when you do, you'll find something beautiful. You no longer chase success. Success starts chasing you. Now let's talk about something most people never think about: the hidden cost of neglect. You see, success doesn't just require effort, it also demands protection. You must protect your potential from decay, from distraction, from comfort, because neglect is quiet, it doesn't knock, it just waits patiently for your discipline to fall asleep. And the moment it does, neglect starts its work. Neglect your body and it will whisper at first. A little fatigue, a small ache, a lost spark of energy. Keep ignoring it, and one day it shouts through sickness, through exhaustion, through limitation. Neglect your finances, and it starts small. A missed bill, a purchase you can't justify, a habit you can't control. Keep ignoring it, and it compounds debt, stress, fear. Neglect your mind, and it begins as boredom, disinterest, excuses. But years later, it shows up as confusion, the inability to adapt, to grow, to lead. Neglect costs more than discipline ever will. The price of neglect is regret, and regret is the most expensive currency you can spend, because regret doesn't just drain your time, it drains your soul. I remember when I first learned this truth. I was sitting in a small, empty apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills, wondering how life had gotten so off track. I realized something painful. I wasn't broke because of bad luck. I was broke because of bad philosophy. I thought small. I acted later. I blamed others. I called it circumstance, but it was neglect. It wasn't the world keeping me small. It was me keeping me small. That's when I decided to do something radical. Take full responsibility, not half, not conditional, not if things go well, total responsibility. Because here's the truth, as long as you keep blaming, you stay broke. Blame is the lock on the door of your own progress. Responsibility is the key. Once I took that key, things began to shift. I started asking different questions. Instead of why me, I asked, what can I learn from this? Instead of when will it get easier, I asked, how can I get stronger? The questions you ask determine the quality of life you live. Here's something else I discovered. The human spirit is undefeated when it accepts ownership. You can't control the economy, but you can control your skills. You can't control other people's decisions, but you can control your attitude. You can't control the storm, but you can become a better sailor. Most people don't suffer because of the storm. They suffer because they never learned how to steer. And here's what happens when you don't steer. You drift. You don't crash immediately. You just slowly move off course. You drift into comfort. You drift into habits. You drift into mediocrity. And one day you wake up far from where you meant to go, wondering how you got there. The truth is, you didn't make one bad decision. You made 1,000 small ones, all easy to do, all easy not to do. That's how failure happens, not in explosions, but in erosion. A little neglect today, a little excuse tomorrow, and suddenly your potential is a ghost of what it could have been. Here's the paradox. The same law that causes decay also causes growth. The small things repeated daily, a little reading, a little discipline, a little consistency. Just as small neglects compound into regret, small improvements compound into greatness. The secret to change isn't intensity, it's consistency. Intensity builds excitement. Consistency builds character. You don't get fit by one long workout. You get fit by showing up every day. You don't become wise by one seminar. You become wise by lifelong study. You don't become wealthy from one good year. You become wealthy from decades of discipline. I call this the law of the slight edge. Everything matters, every choice, every action, every thought. You're either building or breaking, progressing or regressing. Nothing stands still. Every day is a vote for the future you want or the one you'll regret. Let's make this real. Think about your daily life. What are you doing each morning when you wake up? Do you grab your phone to see what the world wants from you, or do you take 10 minutes to decide what you want from the world? Do you feed your mind first, or your distractions? These are not small choices. They are spiritual architecture. They decide whether you live by design or by default. And here's the truth. The world rewards those who design. Everyone else becomes part of someone else's design. You either build your own dream, or you will be hired to build another man's. Now, I know that can sound heavy, but it's also empowering. Because the moment you accept that your life is self-created, you reclaim control. You realize that your next chapter is not written by chance, it's written by choice. So ask yourself, what are the small disciplines that could rewrite your story in 5 years? Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes a day. Maybe it's saving 10% of your income. Maybe it's exercising 3 times a week. Whatever it is, make it sacred. Because small disciplines are like seeds. Plant them daily and they'll grow into forests of success. But here's the key. Just as weeds don't stop growing, doubt doesn't stop whispering. There will always be a voice that says, not today, you're tired, you'll start tomorrow. That voice is the enemy of every dream, and it speaks fluently in excuses. If you listen, you'll drift. If you discipline yourself, you'll rise. You can't silence that voice permanently, but you can starve it with action. Action is the antidote to fear, the cure for procrastination, and the foundation of confidence. The moment you start, the doubt loses power. So don't wait for courage to arrive before you act. Act and courage will meet you halfway. Let me tell you something that has carried me through decades of teaching and building. Success is never owned. It's rented. And the rent is due every single day. If you stop paying, you start declining. If you stop learning, you start losing. If you stop investing in yourself, you start decaying. That's the rhythm of life. Grow or die, rise or rust. So, if you've been drifting, it's not too late. The tide can turn today. The moment you decide to take control again, to read, to study, to plan, to execute, you've already shifted direction. Because the power to change your life doesn't live in tomorrow, it lives in the decision you make right now. Remember this, you can't hire someone else to do your push-ups for you. Nobody can grow for you. Nobody can learn for you. Nobody can become successful for you. The journey is personal, but the reward is priceless. There's a line I've said for years, and every time I repeat it, it still shakes me at the core. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because that is where the true wealth is born. You see, money doesn't come to the person who simply works the hardest, it comes to the person who becomes the rarest. The one who adds so much value, who carries such wisdom, that opportunity starts looking for them. That's when life tilts in your favor, when you've built yourself into someone worth betting on. So, let's talk about the most powerful investment you'll ever make, the investment in you. Let's get practical. I call it the 1 hour rule. Dedicate 1 hour every day to your own growth. Not to your boss, not to your clients, not to entertainment, but to your future. Just 1. If you study the top 1% of performers in any field, business, sports, art, science, you'll find they are all students first. They never stop learning, never stop refining, never stop building their inner capital. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, Jim, I don't have an hour. Let me be blunt, yes, you do. You have the same 24 hours that the greats had. The difference isn't time, it's priorities. You'll always find time for what matters most. The problem is most people spend their hours on what matters least. They give prime time to distractions and scraps of time to their dreams. Let me show you something that changed my entire perspective. 1 hour a day equals 7 hours a week. That's 30 hours a month, 365 hours a year. That's over 9 40-hour work weeks dedicated purely to your personal growth. 9 weeks, imagine what would happen if you spent that time feeding your mind, improving your skills, shaping your discipline. I'll tell you what would happen in 5 years, your life would be unrecognizable. That's the compound effect of consistent learning. It's invisible at first, like watering a seed. You don't see it growing, but something powerful is happening beneath the surface. Then one day, the roots break through and everyone calls it overnight success. But you and I know better, it wasn't overnight, it was built every single day. That's how you build a fortune that no one can take away, a fortune of knowledge, of mindset, of character. See, someone can steal your job, your money, your possessions, but they can never steal who you've become. That's permanent wealth. So, how do you use that 1 hour? Start with reading. Reading is the gateway to every great mind in history. When you read, you borrow decades of someone else's experience for the cost of a few dollars or a library card. You gain the lessons they learned through failure without having to live those failures yourself. That's leverage. And if there's one thing you want in life, it's leverage, the ability to learn faster, grow faster, and decide wiser. Don't just read anything. Read things that stretch you, that challenge your thinking, that disturb your comfort. Read biographies of people who've done what you dreamed to do. Read philosophy that sharpens your vision. Read books on wealth, mindset, leadership, discipline, and service. Don't just read to be informed, read to be transformed. And keep a journal. Don't let your insights evaporate into thin air. Capture them, write them down, because what gets written gets remembered, and what gets remembered gets reinforced. Over time, your journal becomes a map of your transformation, proof that you're not the same person you were last year. Now, let's talk about your daily disciplines. Because success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, it comes from what you do consistently. Every day builds the next day. So, if you want a better future, you must craft better days. Feed your mind before you feed your body. Before breakfast, before news, before notifications, feed your mind something that aligns with your goals. A page of wisdom, a motivational talk, a spiritual reflection, anything that builds you, because how you start your morning sets the tone for your entire day. Guard your circle. Your friends, colleagues, conversations, these are the architects of your mindset. Some people build you, some drain you, some distract you. Choose wisely, because association is a silent education. If you spend time with people who complain, you'll inherit their vocabulary. If you spend time with those who grow, you'll inherit their momentum. And when it comes to your health, treat your body as the foundation of your success, not an afterthought. Exercise, even if it's simple. Eat real food. Sleep deeply. Success demands energy, and energy comes from stewardship. Don't worship work while neglecting the vessel that allows you to do it. Now, let's switch to something equally important, your financial discipline. Most people live in financial chaos, not because they don't make enough, but because they don't manage enough. The habit of discipline doesn't stop with your time, it extends to your money. Here's a simple formula that will rewrite your financial destiny. Live on 70% of what you earn, save 10%, invest 10%, and give 10%. That's it. I know some of you are thinking, Jim, I can barely live on 100% of what I make, let alone 70. But that's the test. Discipline isn't about what's easy, it's about what's necessary. If you can't control a small income, you'll never control a large one. The size of your paycheck isn't the problem, your habits are. If you can learn to manage $1,000, you can manage $10,000 and one day $100,000. But if you can't manage $1,000, you'll lose $100,000 the same way through small leaks of irresponsibility. Saving teaches patience, investing teaches vision, giving teaches gratitude. And gratitude is the magnet for more abundance. But here's the trap: most people don't plan for wealth, they drift into debt. They buy what they can't afford to impress people who aren't paying attention. They trade tomorrow's freedom for today's approval. Don't fall into that illusion. True wealth isn't built on image, it's built on integrity. Let's talk about the long game, because the impatient will always be broke financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Real success takes time. Nature teaches us this. You don't plant a seed and dig it up every week to see if it's growing. You nurture it. You trust the process. Have you heard of the Chinese bamboo tree? You plant the seed, water it, feed it, protect it, and for 5 years, nothing seems to happen. No growth above ground, just patience and faith. But in the 5th year, that bamboo shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. Did it grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? No, it grew 90 feet in 5 years of unseen preparation. That's what your personal growth looks like. The world won't applaud you while you're building roots. But one day when your growth becomes visible, they'll call it a miracle. Don't quit before your 5th year. Your time is coming. Keep watering, keep growing, keep trusting. And when the breakthroughs come, remember this: success doesn't change you, it reveals you. It shows whether you've built the strength to handle the blessings you asked for. That's why personal development isn't just a luxury, it's a responsibility. Because without it, blessings can break you. The truth is, life isn't testing your luck, it's testing your level. If you grow your level, you raise your life. If you stagnate, your blessings will outgrow you and move on to someone else. So today, make the decision, the one that separates the dreamers from the doers. Invest in yourself daily, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient, because you are the only investment that guarantees returns for a lifetime. When you change, everything changes, not overnight, but inevitably. Your income, your confidence, your influence, they all start moving in the direction of the person you're becoming. So, start today, not tomorrow, not when it's easier, now. Because time is passing, whether you use it or waste it. And one day you'll look back and realize that the decision you made today to grow, to discipline, to invest was the moment your entire life began to transform. Because you can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction in a single moment, and that moment is now